Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a video, not a stream, but whatever. I don't care. So, today I'm going to be talking about how I created Call Me Fancy, the Fancy Pants Adventures fan song that I wrote. I'll start with a little bit of backstory on how I found Fancy Pants in the first place because the time between that actually happening and the song being made is actually very short. So, I actually first discovered Fancy Pants on January 16th, 2025. So, a little bit over a year ago. And I had somehow never seen this game before in my entire life, despite living on Flash game sites for a lot of my childhood. Um, I was constantly playing Dino Run, and the first time I heard about Fancy Pants was actually when I was watching a YouTuber called Fizdom play a Friday Night Funkin' mod called FNF Weekly, and there was a Fancy Pants song on there. And then, like, after I saw that stream, I decided, after having it in the back of my head for a long time, that I was going to finally check out what Newgrounds was all about, because I knew that name. I had been kind of adjacent to Newgrounds. I'm not 100% sure if I've ever actually been there in my time prior to that moment. So I made a Newgrounds account. I started looking at the games that they have there and just exploring the best of what they had to offer. And I was kind of experimenting on myself to see what special interests I would get out of it. And I got four, and this was one of them. And that was me first hearing about it was in like November of 2024, October. I forget when that exact stream happened, but that's when that happened. And it was the exact kind of game that I had always wanted to play. So I got hooked very quickly. It was like 11:25 in the morning, according to like some voting records on my Newgrounds account, and the rest is history. But one thing I did love about it was the music, of course. And I I decided that, like, first thing I did was I heard the music of World 1, and I decided, I wanted to arrange it and cover it and then expand upon it a little bit, because whenever I heard the menu theme, I kept imagining this French horn line to jump in, and I decided to just put it down on, like, well, digital paper, so to speak. And then when I did that, I made a little bit of art for it. I posted it to the Newgrounds audio portal, and I didn't realize it for like 2 weeks, but it got front paged. I thought, I thought that it was just. A lot of people like Fancy Pants Adventures. It did not occur to me, like, oh, I just got front paged on Newgrounds, one way or another. And, after that, some people had asked me, like, can you arrange this piece from Fancy Pants? Can you do that? It was, or this or that. It was mainly people from the Born Games Discord server, because I joined that pretty early on. But there was one piece of music from the Fancy Pants series that I adored. I loved this piece a lot. And it's the main menu theme for the console/mobile version of the game called The Fancy Pants Adventures, developed by Over the Top Games, with the composer of the theme being Simon J. Hunter. And it's rock, it's kind of poppy, it's in the key of B minor, which is a key that I love. And so I decided I want to cover this one. And so, when was this? This was, let me check my notes, April 25th of the same year, I made this. you can probably tell, that's just a loop. That just pretty much loops, like up until the very end here it goes, oh shoot, hold on. There it is. I forgot about Dorico's 10 seconds of silence on export, but basically I made that. It was just a loop. It was an instrumentation test more than anything. I was trying to pick and choose what instruments would closely replicate what was from the original that was in Dorico's library. And I made that, and then I realized something. It was April 25th, 2025. Less than a year away was the 20th anniversary of Fancy Pants Adventures, the original game, and I was like, oh god, I don't know what I'm going to do. I want to do something special, but I don't know what to do, and this is like the best thing I've got going right now. And then I just had an itch about something that I used to do in university, but I haven't gotten to do it a long time because I haven't been working with any live performers ever since. So it's been about a year since I was able to do that because I graduated in 2024. I was like, oh, I guess I could write a song about Fancy Pants Adventures based on this. And that's when I basically started making Call Me Fancy. So let me just flip over my notes here real quick, and I will get into telling you how I put this together. But yes, I decided I was going to make that, and, well, I realized I had to act fast, so of course I procrastinated until September, and then I realized I had an entire 7 months to create a song at the very least, but I also wanted to make a music video, so we were gonna see how that was gonna work out. So let's start with the part that I knew I was gonna get to, and that is this right here. And actually, let me move, where are you? Let's see, that's electric guitar too, so let me just move it to the bottom, I guess, so that you can see the lyrics. But anyway, this is the project file in Dorico 5 of Call Me Fancy. You can tell because the project file is still... Oh, hey, Lou. Lou's playing Undertale. It's still called TFPA main theme. So it's made in Dorico 5. This is a software I do not recommend because it is more of a professional software. I only have this because I got a student discount when I was in university, and I occasionally do work with live performers who read sheet music, so this is just what works best for me. If you're the kind of person who wants to know like how to get into music production, I've heard a lot of good things about Kira Studio. I've heard a lot of good things about LMMS, and that's all I know. And if you want a notation software like this, I would recommend MuseScore. That one's free. There's other ones as well, but they're paid or they have stuff that's locked behind a paywall. So your best bet's probably MuseScore in that case. But anyway, so as you know, Call Me Fancy is actually a bit of a mishmash of different pieces of music, some by the same composer, some by others. And the first one is actually heard at the very beginning of the piece here. So, that is combining one of the trailer themes that came out for TFPA and the actual main menu theme. The main menu, the trailer themes are all based on the main menu theme. But I loved the way that this trailer introduced the piece. That I was like, I want this to be the very beginning of the song. And what's tricky about it is that the trailer is at 130 beats per minute. That's its tempo. And then the actual piece is at 140. So I had to make it speed up to that point. This is an accelerando. This is a accel for short. Basically just means speed up. And singing over that is incredibly difficult, but somehow we pulled it off. So we did that for the beginning of the piece, and then it's mostly, the actual main menu theme, so to speak. And my only regret, really, is there's this one part in one of the trailers. I think there was like 3 different trailers that came out, and they all had their own unique music, but there was one that, like, right when it was showcasing the multiplayer, I'll edit this in, it had this really nice bridge, and I would have loved to include that as an actual bridge, but the problem with that was I didn't have the time. I don't know, maybe one day I'll make an extended mix. I'll have to call Solid and ask her if she wants to contribute to that as well, but but unfortunately, or rather fortunately, I mean, I just didn't have the time to include it, so we just passed up on that. But the bulk of what's happening here is choosing the instruments, finding out what works best here. I wonder if I should show that in Dorico or in Reaper, because I worked in 2 different softwares to make this piece, and in one of them, I can't get the automation to work in Dorico. My professor and I tried, and we couldn't figure out how to get it to work. It's possible, allegedly, but it's not working, and it's just easier to do in Reaper, basically, after you export the waves. But, let's talk about, I guess, the little tidbits here. If you're some kind of notation person, you probably know that this is not super ideal. The way that this is notated usually would be like, this is 2 tied 8th notes to show that it's on, or one of these would be, nope, I'm wrong, sorry, I'm thinking of a completely different thing. If it was like that, then it would be, yeah, but it's not, so yeah, don't worry about that, I guess. Where do we even begin? There's just oodles and oodles of stuff. Oh, I know where I could talk. We could talk about the actual VST that had all of these things working together. So it's mainly these right here. These are the synthesizers and stuff that you hear in the piece. Let's see. What are we gonna... Let's start with the organ. I think we should start with the organ. Listen to this. So that's the fizz organ, and it was a bit tricky picking an organ to play that line, because it's a bit, in the original, if I recall correctly, it's a pretty basic rock organ that you would expect, but this one, I couldn't find much that really matched it all that well, and this one just sounds really quirky and cute, and I liked the tone of it, like... I don't know. It's just cute. And that's really all it does throughout the piece. I mean, there's, these chords were a bit tricky for me to figure out. I don't even know if it's super accurate. Yeah. So, fizz organ is one of the things that's playing throughout here, and what does it do during the... Oh, yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. You already know what part that is. Here's the bass guitar by itself, if you want to hear that. So much to write home about, I know. That's the thing about bass guitar, is that it doesn't sound like it's doing much, but its presence is so... It's so important. It has a lot of driving energy to it. Okay. And, what else? What else? Bass drum. There's a bunch of different synthesizers in here. This one is... Ooh, this one's actually really interesting. So this is Magical 8-Bit Plug YMCK, I think it was called. But, or something like that. But this is what it's doing here. Let's see. Oh, you can't even see. So one thing you may have noticed while listening to this, or maybe you noticed it when you listened to the instrumental, which is on Bandcamp, the rhythm's a little different here. And you may have noticed it while reading the actual vocal line down here. Rhythm right here. Call me fancy, call me anytime you need, I'll be there in a flash. So, originally, it was written so that it was, I'll be there in a flash. But when I sent it over to Solid, she felt it was more natural for, I'll be there in a flash, for the there to be part of the there in the to be the eighth notes, and the first part of the measure to be quarter notes instead. And I agreed. At first I was like, oh, I'll give it a try the other way. But I ended up, like, whenever I had to sing my part, I kept singing her the way she did it instead. Because I had just gotten used to it. And I was like, you know what? That does flow a lot better, in my opinion. And that's why it's important to, like, talk with other people about these kinds of things. A lot of stuff I do alone, but every now and then you really do learn from working with other people who do more of what you're working with anyway. You know, I'm not a singer, really, but Solid is, and so that's one of those kinds of changes that was made. You can learn a lot about singing just by trying it yourself and even just trying to make it feel more natural. But when you're a composer of something and you set up something that specific way and you know it because you made it, well, then there's a little bit of bias there that's most people will catch, but you might not. So that's pretty important. But the other thing about it is that in the actual instrumental, I left that rhythm there because, well, I was too lazy to try to go back and change everything, but it's also because it was just largely inoffensive. I was like, nobody's gonna really notice that. It's fine. And so that's basically what happened there. And as for this little lead, this, what is it a triangle lead? I think it said it was a triangle lead itself. It played a really big role here, and it's something that you can't really hear. This is a kind of instrument that was also in the original piece of the main menu theme, but it's very subtle, but hey, video game feels, whatever. I decided for that last little part, I guess it's a bridge? It's not really a bridge, because there really isn't a chorus after it, so I don't know what to call it. I forget what it's called. But, the last chorus, or the last verse, I guess, this is happening in the background. Now, normally you wouldn't notate something like this way. Normally you would use like a, it's like a gliss. You would use like a gliss marking or something. but I had very specific notes that I wanted played here, and it's being played by a machine and not a live performer, so who cares? And that was the specific sound I wanted. But you'll also notice, and this is where the Reaper automation comes in handy, that in the final mix, it's actually panning back and forth left and right wildly. It's going between your left ear muff and your right ear muff the whole time. And that's what the automation is doing there. And what's this? Oh, this is... Ooh, I love this synthesizer. This is a synthesizer called Alternate Pumping. And I used it in Flash Before My Eyes, if any of you have heard that song. If you're a Flash enthusiast or if you like Flash game stuff, please go listen to that song, because that's what that song is inspired by. It's inspired by old school Flash stuff. But I used this synthesizer in that piece, and this was originally not in the song. This was something that I just added very late in the game because I was just like, I love the way this sounds and I want a little extra something in there. And this was it. This was the sound I wanted. And you notice now, it's going back and forth. And that's because this synthesizer comes with automatic panning. I did not tell it to do that. It just does that on its own. I don't even know if you can disable that. Can you disable that? Can you? Alternate pumping. No, I don't think you can. So, yeah, that's just something that I had heard from a previous texture and decided would be very fitting here. And, sorry, I'm just looking... This synthesizer here, I'm looking at my dynamic markings and seeing how much of a control freak I was over this one. This is a... Have I ever used this synthesizer for anything else? I don't know. But it is a very dramatic synthesizer. In fact, I think this one is called Legendary. Is this the one that I'm thinking of? Yeah, that's the one. This is a synthesizer called Legendary, and boy does it sound like that. It is a very powerful lead. I don't think I've used it in anything else, but it serves a very important purpose of usually doubling the vocals or supporting the vocals in other ways. And then later on it has a very important role. But let's take a look at this part right here first. So, this motif here that's in the vocal line, which was currently, before we got the vocals in, it was substituted with a basic distorted electric guitar. This bad boy is what we call the Lost Island motif. Forgotten Island motif. Sorry, Forgotten Island motif. And... Sorry, I'm embarrassed now. So the Forgotten Island motif is one of the main melodies that you hear when you get to the Forgotten Island in Fancy Pants Adventures World 3. Why did I use this motif? Well, because this wasn't the first time I had heard it. I actually heard it or something akin to it. It was really, really close in World 2 in the Fraser's Ride bonus room, the Tommy LM cameo room. You'll hear da 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 da, and I was like, that's really similar to da 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 da. You get the idea. And I was like, and that's when I found out that the composers of those pieces are actually the same person. I'm pretty sure. I think AJ Comics explained that to me once, where it was like, or somebody did. If it was Fancy 2209 or AJ Comics, I don't remember who, explained that Mike Raznick actually composed both those themes, which was a bit of a relief, because I was like, what? Because then if it was a motif made by this two different composers, I would have been like, oh, it probably has a meaning, but since it's the same composer, I'm like, oh, he's just reusing his stuff. But imagine if it did have a meaning. But I really like the motif, and I couldn't think of anything else to put here, really, so I was just like, okay, let's do this. But the problem with this motif, as you can see I'm getting with, is the fact that it's really hard to sing and not stop, especially if you're singing a powerful line, like when you're singing over a rock song. Cramped up in a cardboard box, it's my makeshift way of life, blah, blah. But if you know... Oh, but that's supposed to be so. I messed up there. I guess it used to be but it's supposed to be so. Wow. I love alliteration in my songs, so if you know some sketchy stuff, I'll scribble you out of sight. I don't know what kind of medicine I was on when I wrote that, but there we go. So, that's what the synthesizer is doing, is that it's completing the motif, but giving the singer some time to breathe in and go get ready for the next line. So, that's what that's doing, and it does it a couple times, but it also backs up the lead, and then at the very end here, where are you? Oh, it's all the way at the end. Yeah. Here. Listen to this. Okay. Da. So that right there is the theme for the main menu of World 1. And I snuck that in there as like a big climactic moment for a couple different reasons. The first reason is because I wanted to reference World 1. I really wanted to reference World 1. You know, we got technically a World 2 reference here. We got a World 3 reference in here. But we don't have a World 1 reference. And World 4 reference can come or go. I don't care. But without a World 1 reference, what are we even doing here? So that's what that's doing. But it's also doing it because in the official World 4 Super Fancy Pants Adventures soundtrack, that exact same motif is referenced in the final boss theme. It's in the electric guitar part. You can hear it. It's like, it's only a small portion of it, but the rhythm and the intervals are basically the same. And I'm like, I never noticed that, and the fact that in the video and in the game, guess who's there when that's happening? It's the final boss of Super, who is currently known, I'll be referring to as Inky, because that's just, I prefer it over every other name I've heard for this guy, and so I'll be calling them Inky for whenever I refer to them, just so you know. And that is another reason. So in the video, I wanted it to be big climactic. I wanted it to be sort of like a reference to, well, sort of like a reference to what, like the big cliffhanger that happened at the end of Super. And the last thing that we haven't really talked about, oh no, there's more, there's definitely more. Let's see, how about we talk now about the other, before we go on to anything else, the other synthesizer here. This is the Pulse Sweep synthesizer, and I know it by heart because I've used it a lot in stuff that I've done here and there. The Pulse Sweep synthesizer has a lot of glide time to it that you can actually manipulate, and basically that means like a little bit of a scoop between the individual notes that you tell it to play. And that makes it a great synthesizer for doing stuff like this. Oh boy, why'd I do that? Yeah. It's great for doing all these little trill crazy stuff. especially when you add when you add glisses and tremolos to it, trills, and then here's this. So now you can hear the little scoop. But then this part here is also, it has, when you load in the, like a blank synthesizer and then you add a voice to it, the post sweep synthesizer is monophonic. It doesn't like playing two things at once. And so when you put stuff on top of it, like these notes here, here, and here, and here, it kind of gives it a little bit of a crunchy, like, gliss to it in a way, like a scoop almost, kind of a thing. And that gives it a really nice crunch. Listen to this. So when I put this part here, all I wanted was a little bit of a driving crunch. And this was the perfect synthesizer for it. It goes... It's got like a little squeak to it, I guess would be better than crunch. And that just makes it a lot of fun. It's just a fun synthesizer. And like here too. Yeah, it's one of my favorite synthesizers. I use it all the time. And there's that one. And what is the guitar that we're using here? This guitar, oh, this guitar, man. This guitar. This is above the rim. I found this. I'm gonna use it more. I don't know what it is about this guitar, but it has such nice sound to it, especially here at the last part. Like, it's got that nostalgic sound to me. This part. Yeah, I love that guitar. I love this chord right here. That is such a nostalgic sound to me. My parents made me grow up on a lot of different types of music, but one thing that we did listen to a lot was U2, and U2 has gotten into my music in more ways than one. Like this here. By its own, it's very funky. It's very, hold on. Let me actually just play it right here. Like, listen to these chords together. Oh, Jesus. I'm gonna have to censor myself a lot. I get really excited about these kinds of things. But let's now talk about a really underrated instrument, the drums. I don't actually know if they're underrated, but I love drums. I wish I had the coordination to play drums, honestly. So funny thing here you may have noticed about Dorico is that I had to separate the cymbals and the lower percussion, so to speak, for equalizing purposes. Because if I wanted to, like, adjust the, cymbals and stuff in Reaper, but not the drums, it was just a pain, so I just kept them separate, and they're the same kit, and this kit is called, what's this kit called? They're both the same. Rock Kit 4 of the Groove Agent SE6, VST, so the drum machine, so there you go. That's the, these are the drums. Yeah, absolute whalers over here, and let's not forget the good old side stick. That's a pretty powerful side stick. It's a very powerful kit. But here's something I bet you already thought to yourself, if you didn't already notice it. There's a tambourine in this song, and this is what it's playing. And that's all the tambourine does. But without the tambourine, if I took out the tambourine, you would notice it. And all it's really doing is adding just a little bit of extra texture to that background noise. And you probably already noticed while we've been sitting here in Dorico, but the mix sounds different. The mix sounds extremely different. Like, why does it sound so different? I'll tell you why. I'll show you why. This is the Reaper project for Call Me Fancy. And as you can see, it is riddled with stuff. It is full of automation tracks. It's full of SFX. Is this optimized? No! Nothing ever will be. And when I am working on stuff like this, I can guarantee right now that nothing I do will ever be super duper optimized. And oh, I just noticed something. What bar is this? This is bar 38. Okay, kind of sort of ish around here. I know where it is. Take a listen to this spot right here. Did you catch that? All right, well, if we didn't catch it here, let's listen to it here. Oh, wrong button. Ha! Jeez, I didn't stop it in time. So, what happened there? That right there was a drop in the drums, in the lower drums specifically. That's a low-pass filter. That's an automated low-pass filter, and what that does is it makes things a little funky. You want to watch it do it while it's doing its job? Let's take a look at this. You're going to be looking at this one right here, I believe, is the one you're going to be looking at. Watch that. So that cuts out the higher frequencies and just makes it so that it sounds like it's behind a wall, or it's, you know, being turned down suddenly, or it's underwater, or you're underwater, or something like that. And I love messing with low pass filters, high pass filters. In fact, when I was originally writing this piece, I was going to have it be that the vocals were in a high pass filter like almost the entire time. I was thinking of Lick the Pavement by Garbage, the vocal style coming through there, because I wanted it to sound like it was coming through kind of, you know, crappy speakers, but that's not what I was able to work with at the time. So I just said, you know, it is what it is. There is still a bit of a filter on the vocals, and this is like the only time you're ever going to be able to hear like isolated vocals is during this video of Call Me Fancy. But as you can see, we had a pretty difficult time with this. This is the first time I had ever done, recorded my own vocals for anything. And so this is clearly like, oh, it's my first time doing something like this. But, so Solid recorded most of what you hear, I think, is her first or second take. I forget which one it was. I think it was the first, but that's the majority of what she did. But the thing is that when I wrote this piece, it's a little bit low for her range, but the way that I even got Solid was I went into a Discord server. I went into the Fancifully Crafted Discord server like one day, and actually let me see, what day was that? That was November 2nd, 2025. That's how that's how desperate I was when I walked into that Discord server. I said, guys, does any of you happen to be able to sing rock music? Anybody here? Anybody? And she was one of the people to speak up, who, you know, she was like the first person to volunteer. And so, you know, I direct messaged her. I said, this is what it looks like. Let me know if you can do it or not. I'll pay you, blah, 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 you know. And she was like, I'll give it a try. And she came back with this. And I thought, I can work with this. Is it what I originally planned? Absolutely not. But I can work with this. I liked the style of how she sang it. I liked it. It kind of sounded a little like it was like how do I say I'm trying to the word that's coming to mind is quirky, but like I mean that in a very like this is exactly the kind of tone that I want with this song. I want it to be quirky and fun. It's supposed to be a fun song that has a bit of a, I guess, darker twist underneath it. And that's what I got out of these vocals. But then I was like, okay, that's great. But because, you know, she's going up against this big, large, huge orchestration down here, I should probably, you know, I can do one of two things. I can either find another guy to, like, sing the same part, but, like, sometimes it's an octave lower, or I could just do it myself. And I just decided to do it myself because talking with one person was enough. So I did my part, but also sometimes I did another part where I sang it an octave lower on top of that. So let's hear Solid by herself first.
Call me fancy, call me anytime you need, I'll be there in a flash.
Yeah, that's the kind of, like, that little flash. Like, right there, I told her, I said, feel free to use some Sprechstimme. You don't have to hit the notes precisely. If you can make it sound fun and quirky, go for it. And that's exactly what I got back. Now, back to that, I stayed a little bit more traditional. But what I did to my voice was I tried to do that same kind of thing.
Call me fancy, call me anytime you need, I'll be there in a flash.
Ooh. And so you hear two different lines there. You hear this one.
Call me fancy, call me anytime you need, I'll be there in a flash.
And then you have this one.
Call me fancy, call me anytime you need, I'll be there in a flash.
And now on their own, they kind of sound like whatever. They kind of sound like it's like, oh yeah, whatever, man. But like when you put them together.
Call me fancy, call me anytime you need, I'll be there in a flash.
They sound much better. And it's because it sounds more powerful together. I think the best part is right here at the end. With the vocals, this part is the best. But techno, what's that? That is something very important. Let me, just for fun, let's listen to what this part sounds like without that. And you'll know what that is pretty quickly.
You better run, that's it.
So what's that? That's me in my car at around 8:30 at night, just coming home from a yoga class, screaming fancy at the top of my lungs.
You better run, that's it.
And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, techno, play that by itself.
Fancy.
Yeah, and it's because at the end of the song, no matter what I did, I couldn't scream it. Like when I sang it together with this line, as I was like these two here, I couldn't scream it. Especially not with the lower one. No, not with the lower one. With the higher one, yeah, sure, probably, but I just couldn't quite scream it the way I wanted that line to be screamed. So I put myself in my car and I just went,
Fancy.
and as you can see, I had to extend it a little bit, but I made it work. I had to get done however it needed to get done. And there's all kinds of effects on these kinds of things to make it sound like it's in the room with the instruments. There's reverb, there's a limiter, there was originally a delay on here as well, but I took it off. Like, there was some stuff I took off. Oh, here's the filter that I was gonna put on, the high pass filter that I was gonna put on the vocals, but I ultimately decided not to do it. I think I only got around to doing it for Solid. Oh yeah, Some minor tuning adjustments were also made here. It was just one of those things where it was like slight polish. It happens all the time in music production. There's never going to be anything that is perfect. And in fact, this final product isn't even perfect. This final mix isn't even perfect. And that I'm glad it isn't, because the thing that I wanted to take advantage of with this piece, both in the song and as a music video, was that it was based on an old Flash game from 2006. It's gonna be a little bit like almost makeshift. It's gonna look a little crunchy. It's gonna look a little dated. It's gonna sound a little dated. It's gonna sound a little rough. And the important part is that it was natural above anything. Even though the instruments were synthetic, I wanted part of this to sound natural, because it is a computer game. It is a computer game. There is going to be computers involved. This is the computers. This is the computers, along with the video. But it's all made by man. It's all made by a human hand or a human voice, human voices, and that's what's important to me ultimately, is that we were able to make this with none of that AI crap, and we did it. And any adjustments and stuff were going to be made by myself. So with that being said, let's take a look at this part while the tuning is active. This is the live tuning.
I'm on the run. What's done is done. What's done is done, done, done. I don't belong in your world. I'm on the run. You better run, fancy.
And you might be thinking, I didn't hear any live tuning manual correction there. Well, it's in here. It's in here. Where is it? Hold on. Let me make it come up. Okay. There it is. Only sometimes. There it is.
What's done is done. What's done is done.
I didn't actually use it a lot for this part here, because once we got through this, we were like, okay, first of all, we know what we're doing. Second of all, this part does not hop around a lot as much as like cramped up in a cardboard box, whatever, you know, that line jumps around a lot, and you're gonna need a lot of like adjustments there just for as like a smoothing out. But even then, it's not perfect. It's far from perfect, and that's the way I like it. And that's another thing that I had to keep in mind, is that what I wrote was not an easy song to sing. However, it is a recognizable melody, and people who have been going back and playing World 3 recently have come up to me and said, I cannot unhear Cramped Up in a Cardboard Box when I get to Forgotten Island. And I say, good, because that's exactly what I wanted to happen. So, regarding the automation of the actual instruments, down here we've got, let's start with the guitar. Remember that big, thick guitar that we were listening to earlier that had such a presence to it? Where'd the guitar go? Oh my god, why does it sound like it's coming out of a bunch of crappy speakers? It's got a high-pass filter on it, that's why. And that was necessary. That was necessary to take that guitar back, because I still wanted its texture and a little bit of its presence, but it needed to dial back quite a bit in order for the vocals to have a space to even exist. It is a very powerful guitar. The electric organ, well, she's perfect. Well, except for the fact that it's on the... it's got panning on it now, and it's all the way on the left-hand side for the most part. What percentage is that? 74%. Yeah, setting up... Sorry, that was really funny. But there's that. The pulse sweep is also panned a little bit. That one's got its higher frequencies boosted for that squeaky sound. I think is that no, that's not automated. Yeah, that's just the way it is. Um, and it's panned a little bit to the right. Panning is a huge like like MVP in music production because it creates that environment surrounding the listener first of all, and second of all, it allows for like if I were to do you want to hear what this thing would sound like without any panning at all? Where's the button to do that? Yeah, you want to hear what this thing would sound like if it was in mono? No, you don't, but you're gonna. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that awful? Isn't that terrible? Good lord. That's what mono means in audio production. It means everything's panned to the exact center and it sounds god awful. Now, the drums kind of come with their own automatic panning. That's the way the drum machine itself works. It just does that automatically. But that's Reaper's power basically just going in there and saying, ignore what Dorico said to you. Here's all of your panning completely off. You're all going to the center. You're all coming out at the same time, from the same place, the same amount. Blah. And then you have, what was the other thing? Oh, the higher frequencies being cut in and out by the EQ filters, and the lower frequencies, all that is another thing. That has been messed around with, as we know. We saw that here, primarily there, and a little bit here and there. What the heck is this? This is just, I think these are leftovers of me screwing around with something that didn't actually come to be. There's no is there a reason for this to be, there is no reason for this to be automated. I don't know what I was doing here. But you've noticed the elephant in the room by now that we've talked about before, and that is what that little chiptune synthesizer has been doing over here. Here's it's one that I messed with the most when it came to panning, I think, besides the big legendary synthesizer was that was the first like sign of panning that it didn't do anything. The first time you hear it is over on the right hand side, and then it comes back and it's on the left. And then the biggest, most important part, even though you can't really hear it, kind of a thing here. There it goes. Alright, that might hurt after a little while. It's a little tough to hear on its own. There's actually another part of this song that I want to see if you can hear. I think I go right here. No, where do I go to find it? I go to 1, okay. Listen closely.
Call me fancy, call me anytime you need. I'll be there in a flash. I'll come around and I'll be coming around again. Don't you run from the past. Call me fancy, call me anytime you need. I'll be there in a flash.
We passed it. I don't know where it was. It was there. Where was it? Where was it? Hold on. Let me listen again.
Call me fancy, call me anytime you need. I'll be there in a flash. I'll come around and I'll be coming around again. Don't you run from the past.
Where the heck is it? You know, it might be easier to hear if I mute the vocals. Hold on. I know what I'm talking about. I promise you. Is it at 2? No, it's definitely at 1. Hold on. There it is. Okay. There it is. It's right here. Did you hear it? It's like right... I know you think I'm crazy, but... Did you hear the wah 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 wah? So that is something that happens in music production sometimes, where you will be able to hear something that you didn't actually put in there. And I tried to figure out what was causing that sound. It sounded to me like the pulse sweep synthesizer, which is impossible because the pulse sweep synthesizer doesn't play here. And I thought, is it the chip synth? No. Then what the heck was that? Some frequency magic. I don't know what that was. I actually tried recreating that sound in the pulse sweep synthesizer, and I couldn't quite get it, but it was there. Now I sound really crazy, but it's there. It's not there, but it's there. And, you know, I think that's the same kind of thing where it's like, you're listening to a song, and you swear to God that you heard your mother call you just now. You know, anybody ever have that thing where it's like you're listening to a song, you swear you hear someone say your name? That's a thing. I've heard other people talk about it. I've got a couple myself. But it's just this thing that happens. And I don't know if there's like a full-on explanation for it. It's not something that I've bothered to Google or remembered to Google. But there's that. Anyway, we've been talking for how long have we been talking now? I hope this thing is still recording. Yeah, we've been talking for about an hour about just a song. We haven't even gotten into the actual music video. Well, I would love to tell you more about the music video. But I opened it up, and it was just this, which makes no sense to me, because I still have everything right here. So I don't know why that happened, and I don't want to bother going through all of the stuff. So I guess one thing we could do is we could just go through the individual video thing and talk about it, but I will let you know that this is what it looks like in the DaVinci Resolve file. It's a lot of stuff. There's a lot going on here. It just decided to do this one day, unfortunately, and maybe someday I'll bother to restore it, and I'll do a part 2 where I talk about the actual video, but if I'm being completely honest, I want to get this stuff off my computer and onto my hard drive, because it's taking up a lot of space. But like I said, I can walk you through all of these different pieces. As you can see, I messed up a few times. I will tell you about the music video itself. Let me just pull up some files. I think it's mostly on the desktop. There's actually some on the desktop, but rude file names I actually made just now. Oh god, I have to censor that. Rude file names is because I cussed a little bit in my file names. I said the S word while I was putting some frames into the thing. Oh, but yeah, you can see all the little pieces here. There was an old crappy like run cycle. I don't think that's the final one. Root file names is just jumped up to the top there and scared me. I put the thumbnail in here. These are all the frames to the loops. These are the moving frames that they were scrolling as they were, they were cut up into pieces of all of this. And then the actual loops here are in, here. The way that I did this, picture it, I had to open up some separate DaVinci Resolve files away from the big master one. And the way that I did it is I would put together all of the frames together as their own individual loops. I would export them as MOVs with like some special parameters, and that would make it so that they were transparent. And then I would take all of those different pieces and I would put them together and layer it on top of like the background. And that's why you have like the loop here, which is the World 3 loop, as I call it, because this is mainly just a reference to World 3. I would make it about the length with a little bit extra just in case I timed it wrong. of how long this is going to be. Now, one big challenge I came across while doing this was I actually animated these at 16 frames per second, and that's not mathematically sound when with a software that either goes by 12 or 24 frames per second. So what I ended up needing to do was I ended up needing to like put it at like 12 frames per second or 24 frames per second, with each frame, instead of being one frame, going by two frames in length rather than just by one, and then going into exporting that, putting it back in DaVinci Resolve, and then speeding it up by however much it was that I needed to speed it up by in order to get from 12 to 16, and then it was at the frame rate that I actually like animated it at to be in time, relatively speaking, with the music. And that's why math is important to learn when you're doing art. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it really is. And so that was a big hurdle. Now, there is a point in the music video where let me go and actually grab the final export. Give me 1 second. Where'd it go? Okay. So we're going to take a look at the actual music video, and I'm going to mute the audio just because I'm talking about it. The music video was I actually made the frame, all of everything in Photoshop up until here, I think. No, it wasn't here. This is all Photoshop here. This is where it stopped being Photoshop. Right as Fancy jumps in the box, it's not Photoshop anymore. It's now moved on to Ibis Paint. And that's because I wanted to work on Call Me Fancy without, first of all, without having to be in my studio. If I was in bed and I wanted to like suddenly, like I couldn't sleep and I wanted to work on it, I could just grab my tablet and start working on it. And that's what I did. I did a lot of things to my sleep schedule I do not recommend for this project. And yeah. So, but this was all made in Photoshop. And what I do, if you want to see something that's fully animated in Photoshop, Life of Phi Part 1. That's something I did. Everything I made, every visual in that video was made in Photoshop. And then what I would do is I would import the frames into Microsoft Clipchamp and then just let them like run like each individual frame where it needed to be with all the effects and stuff. And I'm basically doing the same thing now, just with DaVinci Resolve, which is exponentially better. Microsoft Clipchamp, the straw that broke the camel's back, I was thinking about quitting it for a while, but the straw that broke the camel's back was, it logged me out of my stuff one day, and it wouldn't let me back in, and I just said, you know what? Same to you, my friend, and I quit. And then I got DaVinci Resolve, and that's what made this video. That's what made Call Me Fancy. And yeah, I'm really glad I made that change. You can kind of tell when the lines in Photoshop are a lot more shaky and a lot more like, because there's no stabilizer. And that's okay, in my opinion, because it's Fancy Pants Adventures. It has a certain style to it. But, and then, of course, there's the super smooth Ibis Paint sort of look to it. There we go. There are some spots where it's so obvious that I was like, oh, I messed up, and I need to cover that up, and that was one of them. But, let's actually go chronologically, I guess, in terms of this actual music video. So, there's already something to say here. I knew that I needed to make a warning for flashing images, but I was also like, oh, you know, There's kind of technically spoilers in here, but I thought, you know, it's kind of funny needing to put a warning for flashing images, something that could potentially cause someone to have a seizure right next to, oh no, I hope your silly stick figure video game doesn't get spoiled. So I kind of approached this with the tongue-in-cheek kind of a way, where I was just like, I'm just gonna make this so apparent that I know how stupid this sounds. But I need to put both warnings there. But if I sound super sincere about it, I'll just look like an idiot. So I was like, I'll just put, you know, a warning for both on there. But like make it seem like the spoilers are, you know, way more important. The sound here, there's a sound here I do want to show. Hold on. Oh gosh, come on now. I feel like an old person messing around with these things. Okay. So, two things. Number one, that slight ambience you can hear, that's the same ambience that was used in the very beginning of World 2 when Fancy's outside playing golf. It's the birds tweeting and stuff. Because I just thought it would be nice. But also, in the actual track, this build-up reverse symbol is not in the actual song. That's something that was edited in later, as you know. And of course that screen shake, that's Da Vinci's working its magic. And okay, I didn't know it did that. These are the clouds parting, and this entire section is a reference to World 5, the very beginning of World 5, and this is based on the only public screenshot, like one of the only public screenshots of World 5. And that's why I used it. You know, that kid that was right there just now, that's the kid that's looking over the cliff and is like, you don't belong here. And that's all I could do for World 5. So at the very end, when you see Fancy fall into the notebook, that's just this is just what happens after that. And as someone who, I am a Patreon member, so I was able to play the World 5, like, old build that's like 5 years old by now or something like that. And I like it very much. So I figured this would stir up a little bit of hype or whatever. But when I posted this, a lot of people actually didn't know who this was. They were like, who is this kid? Who is this guy? And I was like, that's just the kid from the World 5 teaser. That's just who it is. Except I felt like presenting him as like a silhouette with wide eyes would make it seem cooler than if it was just some kid looking over the cliff. And that's why he looks like that. It's not an ink monster, which is a problem. Okay. This is not how this always looked. I'm actually gonna close this for a second and I'm gonna show you something real quick. Let me go get it. Where is it? Here it is. This is a draft from February, what does this say? February 21st, like little under a month before this thing was supposed to come out. This is a work in progress, but let's fast forward right here a little bit. There's no lyrics here, as you can see. That was like the last thing I did. Watch this. So, I think you can see why I made that change. That is supposed to be the pencil, and the dead giveaway that it is a pencil was when it breaks. But then I was like, I don't know if it's super clear what that's supposed to be. I don't think that's clear enough what that's supposed to be, and that's why I replaced it with the pencil. Let me go back to the other build now. A build? What the heck am I talking about? It's just a render. talking about it like it's an actual video game. So that pencil that comes down, the reason it's so blurry is, first of all, I thought, well, okay, this is just a consequence of what I just did. The blurriness kind of makes it look like the white is glowing and stuff, and then there's, you know, I just animated over the previous pieces. But that's because it's actually a sized up, and it's like a way exploded, like, big version of where is it, there it is, of this pencil right here. That's the pencil that I drew in Ibis Paint. We'll get back to it in a minute. Let's go. Oh God, I just saw something that's gonna make me need to go back to the other build. Actually, you know what? Let me move the other build. I keep saying that, to the folder. Okay. Can I open two of these at the same time? Oh, kind of, sort of, not really. But where is it? Okay, let's let that go down. Let's let this happen. There's the logo. It's always been the same. Uh-oh. What's chat? What's the difference between these two pictures? What's wrong with this picture? The spider with the skateboard's gone. He's not there. He's supposed to be right here on this mountain. But he's not. Why? Because he was an afterthought. Oh my God. I originally wasn't going to have that in there, and then I decided that putting a spider only in the credits was kind of criminal. Like, that would have been the only appearance of a spider in the entire video if I didn't do that. And even though the appearances of spiders is still very minimal in this video, regardless, I felt like that was stupid. So this is a reference to the spider that you see, one of the spiders that you see in the background of World 2. And it's actually the first time, shout out to Firebite for being the first person to notice this. Oh, excuse me. My ginger candy just attacked me. Oh, excuse me. Oh, okay, I'm alive. This is the first time you see a skateboard in Fancy Pants Adventures. Oh, no, there's no way I could have done it. I just had a thought where I was like, oh, first time fancy or seen something in the series, like Brain Go, Firebite Trivia, Brain Go, Newgrounds Rumble, first time fancy seen using pencil as weapon. I thought, is there any way I could have made a reference to that here? And the answer is no. No. Newgrounds Rumble will save you for another day. Dear Lord. But yeah, this shot right here, I almost reanimated this run cycle. In fact, I think I did. I think that first little work in progress run cycle frames I showed you was that, and me deciding it was crap and then going back and doing it again. I did that in Photoshop. I thought about redoing it in Ibis Paint, but then I was like, that's basically just taking the run cycle and then adding like a little halt and then a jump animation to it. I almost did that. But I decided I had reused that animation enough. I had reused that loop enough. So here's the switch to Ibis Paint. Here is the penguin. There was this one problem I encountered while I was animating this shot where I exported it, I put it in the thing, and then for some reason it was just compressed. It was crunchy. It looked terrible. I don't know what I did to fix it. I kind of like... Oh, I know what I did. No, I don't remember what I did. What did I do? It was something about... I remember what I did. Okay. Originally, this penguin, like, twitching and stuff... Oh, God. Not twitching, but, like, having that sort of idle animation to it while it's asleep. That was originally just a video that was just those 2 frames long, and then I added that video in, like, a bunch of different times into the master file and just let that be. And for some reason, that just made it look super compressed even in the render. So what I ended up doing was I ended up going back, putting those frames together again, and then just making the video the clip of, like, him sleeping as long as I needed it to be. And then editing Fancy falling on top of him afterwards. And as you can see, I didn't want to animate another run cycle of him again. So I decided to take advantage of my lyrical talent here and just scribble it out of sight, quite literally. And so there was that. And in terms of lyrics, I haven't been talking much about how the actual, like, writing of the lyrics, but I wanted it to reflect everything that was happening in the video, essentially. So, cramped up in a cardboard box, it's my makeshift way of life. If you know some sketchy stuff, I'll scribble it out of sight. And that, it's kind of irrelevant until we get to World 2, honestly. But, this sequence. Everybody loved this sequence. I thought it was so stupid, but people loved it. It was a pain to get this to work. It really was. And everybody calls it the Scooby-Doo doors, which is great because that's exactly what I called it. I literally called it the Scooby Run. These doors, every single one, every single action it takes, like, let's go back a bit again. Scribble it out of sight. Now I'm on the run. It's just me being lazy, whatever. I don't care. I'm on the run. The door sitting idly, the door opening, the door closing. These are all different individual. It's like what I did with the loop, the World 3 loop, or all the other running loops. They're all individual mobs. They're individual videos here that would open and close. They would play as the animation came and went. The animation itself, this is a still video that's being panned around. Everything's being panned around. The video of the lyrics are, the actual running animation is, and it was so many, it was like 16, like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It was 16 layers of all this stuff. And a couple of times I ran into a problem where the door would close too early or too late. In fact, there's one tiny little thing here that I considered patching that I'm gonna point this out to you. It's gonna ruin everything for you. You're gonna hate me. Let's play though. Where are we gonna see this? You can kind of see it here already. Look at that. It's still behind the door. It needed to be coming out of the door, but I didn't actually like put the opening of the door on another layer. In fact, if I slow this down a heck of a lot, you might be able to see. Oh boy. Yeah. You can see that Fancy goes right behind that door. I did not bother messing with the layering because 16 different frames, different tracks was making it lag enough. If I bothered to go through and make that, all of these different idle parts, it would have been, I think it would have crashed. I would have had to find a way to like render on top of all this stuff. I was already having a hard time as it was. But, yeah. So, there's then this part here, where Fancy, like, loses him and is like, huh. So this part's really funny, because originally what was going to happen was it was going to zoom out, and the pencil was going to be there, and Fancy was going to notice immediately, and then get chased by, he was going to be like, ah, do that little scare there, and then start running straight away, but I didn't time it right, and so it wasn't actually enough time for, like, that to properly happen. So, like, it was kind of like I tried to extend it by making him, like, idle in the air a bit more, like, waving his arms, like, oh! But that didn't work because, you know, I had made the mistake, a classic mistake, where I had put the pencil on the same, like, the pencil's animations on the same layer as his. Like, when I actually exported the PNGs, like, in the actual project file on my tablet, they're separate, of course, but, like, when I imported the PNGs, they were together, and that was a mistake. So, I had to go back, and I had to isolate them. See, here's the original pencil encounter, they're the same PNGs, and then it changes to, like, a black screen and a separate Fancy. Where is the separate Fancy? Did I mask it? I might have masked it with like a thing. I don't know what I did. But so basically my point being, I ended up making it so that he doesn't notice it at first, and the pencil has to poke him to say, hey, buddy. And I'm really proud of that. I put way too much detail into this pencil. I made it a used pencil. It's a little short. It's got scraps all over it. It's got a used eraser. I'm so proud of that eraser. It's got leather seats. It's got a CD player. Look at this. It's got eraser marks. Man. I really like that pencil. And that's the same pencil that was used here. That's just it's super zoomed in. It's the same pencil. I just took one of the frames of it that was like almost full where you could see the bulk of the body, rotated it, and then just zoomed it in. In fact, I think if I really slow this down, you should be able to see it come down. Hold on. Come on, you. Oh, God. Control P, really? That's your... Oh, yeah, you could see that. There it goes. Oh, it has an equalizer. Good Lord. But, so that's the pencil, and I think that's the only time the pencil appears. But, yeah. Oh, no, it's not! Is it? I don't remember. We'll get there when we get there. I might be thinking of something else. I'm thinking of something else. But, so, here's that loop. The first World 1 loop. And you may have noticed there was an ink transition. That's a video of, like, ink wiggling around a lot and then being moved. Like, a panning effect being used in DaVinci. And I had to time it very accurately so that it looked like this thing was also moving. This thing is also a video that just got moved. And sorry I'm coughing so much. I've been talking for ages. Then we get to World 2. And, oh, do I still have... Where is it? Here it is. Check this out. Now, it might be better if I open it on Photoshop. No, Photoshop would be on. I was originally going to do way more. Oh, boy. Look at this. One of the great things about working alone is that you can make your storyboards look like garbage. You can take only thumbnails and let it be that way. Originally, there wasn't going to be a Scooby-Doo door. Originally, he was going to jump on the penguin. It was going to chase him, and then it was going to fall on a wall and explode. And then he was going to find a door and go through it. And then there was going to be the pencil. And then it was going to be the running loop. He was going to jump on a spider, dodge a mouse, get attacked by the pencil, kick it down, and then grab it. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. That's what that was supposed to be. And now we're at World 2. Kind of the same idea. Where it's like, I'll be your mercenary, you tell me where to be. That's basically just fancy talking to the mayor. I thought about using the flag as a transitional thing, I guess. And then it would go to the angry rabbit, and then he was going to jump on a snail, kick the snail at the rabbit's face. Is that the Family Guy dead bone? I don't think that's what it is, but it looks like it. It almost kind of looks like it. No, I think that's the normal death pose that the rabbit does, but it almost looks like the Family Guy death pose. I'm sorry, I'm laughing so much. And then there's the actual ice cream. No, I didn't. Okay. I was like, did I forget to reference the ice cream? No, I didn't. Snowboarding made it in. The angle was going to be a bit different, but then I decided to be a bit more traditional. So, you can see why I didn't do all this. And I'm kind of glad This would have been way too much, and also it would not have been nearly as memorable, I guess. But it was originally going to be like the running animation, and then they were going to be sliding on some ink, and then it was going to be it's really funny in hindsight. I'm just glad I get to show this to somebody at all. Then it was going to be the mayor yelling at Fancy to wake up after the king like talked him to sleep. And then Captain Rainbowbeard was going to notice this, book it, run it to Caboodle anyway. This is the best drawing of Caboodle I have ever done. Look at this. Oh, he's so rotund. He looks like a Poe. And then Cutie was... he was going to kick him. And then I thought, let's make the, like, what's happening here a little bit more clear. Plop a pirate hat onto her head. And then yoink her away. And then in World 3, this one's I kind of missed this one. He was going to be, in the course of World 3, he was going to be running with a pencil, fighting off the ninjas. And she would have gone licking. I think I'm the funniest person on the planet. She would have bonked his head so hard it would have broken into the floor. And then he would have come back being chased by ninjas. And her as well. And then they decided to team up and do a tornado attack. And then it would have gone to the actual part that I really enjoyed. That I put so much effort into that shot that I just decided to make this all of this. And oh my god, am I glad I did. Except now there's something a little different here. The whole part where they were like, the outro, so to speak, is what I called it here. Like, them looking out the window, the ground melting, and then they were going to be standing here. Everything the light touches is our kingdom. And then I'm on the Run would have been the introduction of the pen, and then the ink attack, and all of this stuff. And then there was going to be a fight that ended a little differently between Fancy and Inky, where Fancy was actually the one who was going to get knocked to the floor. There was going to be the pen versus the pencil, so to speak. And then the pencil was going to break. Inky would have grabbed Fancy and then flung him down into the thing. And then there was going to be like a reference to the to be continued screen or whatever. But that's why the pencil breaks at the beginning of the video, is because of this scrapped thing where it was like, oh, the pencil versus the pen. I feel like Inky, like I had this little kind of like idea in my head where Inky was the original owner of the pen before it got taken by technically an accident. So there was that, but then I was just like, I don't want to animate this, so I just made it more faithful to the original. And I think the number one thing I mourn is Cutie pocket. Oh god, I'm sorry. It's not that funny, but it's hilarious to me. Oh man. Okay. Oh, jeez. Okay. But that's what I was kind of sort of using this as a checklist as well, but I'm glad that I did what I did, because not only is it more, I guess, stimulating to look at, it's more like rhythmic to the music, basically. Because when I watch this with the music, I put so much effort into this, I wanted it to stay here for a while, and everyone knew this was my favorite shot because of it. But I'm not kidding around. You saw that folder. Like, this took so much time. I was on a Discord call when I was animating the pirates. Like, this is all that. The backgrounds were a nightmare, but I got it done. And I would do it again. But anyway, back to the actual video. So this is how the encounter with the rabbit changed. I decided to make it like, oh, he goes underground into the caves to like look for this rabbit. So how about a bunch of golf holes? And I almost put a flag, like the golf flag, somewhere around here. But then I decided not to because A, I already forgot, and B, I feel like the red of the flag would have distracted too much from the main action, and also I don't think it was something that was missed. Honestly, I think we're all fine with this sort of composition. The picture has its own flow to it. And ooh, this part right here. Watch Fancy here. The way he points like that is a reference to how he did it in World 2 right before he gets jumped by the rabbit. And that is a very easy animation thing to do. The way he shakes, it's like technically incorrect. Where you make it so that the frames of the hands specifically are slightly out of order. And that gives it this like angry twitching effect, like almost like he's like shaking a little bit. And there he goes swapping his hands. That's the one problem with animating stick figures like that, is that sometimes you forget which hand is which. Speaking of which, you can't, like, when you're looking at the running animation here, it's really hard to tell sometimes what arm is forward. This is me being lazy again, but whatever. I loved that part. But anyway, it's hard to tell. Without the pants, it would be hard to tell. This part. Hold on. Let me talk about the lyrics real quick. So, like I said, the lyrics here in the first verse don't really make sense until you get to the second verse, in a way, where Fancy's basically saying, I'll get the job done. Just tell me where to be, and dirty deeds ain't done dirt cheap, you had best give me my treat. Now, the mayor was the one who originally gave him that. That's why he wants it back. But like, that's just me like being a little bit like liberal with what exactly the lore is, and saying he'll do anything for food. That's what this song is. I'll do anything for food. That's what this song is. And this line here, some people didn't know this. It's a cultural thing, I guess. Some people just straight up don't know. Dirty deeds ain't done dirt cheap. This is a reference to the song Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap by AC/DC. And basically that song is just like, I'll kill anybody for cheap. It's like an advertisement of a song. Of course, it's just a character, but this is basically just the opposite of that. Like, yeah, I'll kill somebody, but you gotta give me my treat. And that's what that is. It's a rock song. You should go listen to that song. And now we're back with I'm on the run, I'm on the run, I'm on the run, da, 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 da. Go, go, go. And now this part here. So fun fact. The day this premiered, not this frame, please. this part here. The day this released, Brad Bourne actually watched this in a call with us in the call with us Patreons, because he decided he wanted to get back into doing calling and streaming and talking with people, and. One of my friends brought this up and brought up like this music video, and we all watched it together. He brought in his family, Jenna and the kids, or Fairly and the kids, and it was great. Everybody had a great time, and we all had a good time hanging out and talking. And he said, at this point here, he said, the mayor wouldn't run slower than Fancy, and I thought, that's true. So and I knew this when I animated the video, but there are a couple reasons why I put him back here instead. And the first reason why is because I thought it would be weird if Fancy was behind him instead of... I kind of wanted it to look like Fancy's like this... Fancy's like the hunter, and he's leading the charge, and the mayor's like, oh god, what have I unleashed onto this world? But the other reason is the opposite kind of thing, where it's like, it could also be viewed as the mayor is the leader, he's making he's hanging back, kind of like in actual wild wolf packs, for real. Making the leader stays behind to make sure nobody gets left behind. And I know the mayor's a good leader, and he would make sure that everybody doesn't get left behind. But the other reason is the flow here. But I did fix it in the end. I did. And this is the cover. It uses the same assets. I wasn't making anything new. God. For the release on Bandcamp. And I really like this, actually, because two things. Number one, it has that nice, like, arch of, like, going lower and higher. Like, these two are kind of at the same, but, like, who cares, you know? The point is there. The bulk color, the highlighting color is, like, orange, pink, orange, white. They're actually, like, in that smooth going up and down kind of thing. And the other reason I like it is because it looks like evolution. It looks like an evolution timeline. So there's that. I considered for April Fool's making a lore accurate cut of just the World 2 and World 3 parts of this music video, where the mayor was going to be running, like, he would run past Fancy, and then he would show up again behind Fancy, run past him again, and then again, and then again, and again, and again, and again, and then there would be, like, 20 mayors flying around in the background. But I decided that I want this on my hard drive now. I do not want this. I don't want these assets taking up all this space on my computer anymore. Maybe someday I'll come back to that, and I'll just only take the necessary assets, but whatever. Okay. Here's a fun fact about this shot. This shot was the first time I ever saw Ibis Paint crash on me. Ibis Paint crashed on me when I drew this shot, and I haven't the faintest clue why. Actually, I do. I remember. The reason is because while I was animating this, I left the background in. And when you're animating a shot like that, note to self and others in Ibis Paint, set up the background for, like, the first shot or any necessary shot where you need to know where the floor or the wall or anything that comes into contact with the characters is. But in any frame where that's not necessary, get it out of there, because it's also being counted as part of the animation, and it's all just a solid wall of pixels, and it will crash. And it's pretty rough. So there's that. Melting ground, that stayed in from the original plan. A little panning on this volcano shot. Oh, this shot! Oh! As you see, this shot was not originally planned, but I'm actually going to open up the actual PNG of this, or one of the frames. It's just 2 frames going back and forth. Where is it? It's around here. There it is. So this is a shot that's a little bit zoomed in. But yeah. Is my avatar in the way? My avatar is a little bit in the way, so let's make it so that you can fully see. Okay. So this shot was a later on idea. And it's one of my, like, besides the actual, like, running World 3 running animation loop, this is one of my favorite shots. And it's everyone hiding out in the bathtub from the ink storm, of course, the ink volcano. So you have the ice cream man, you have Bat Spider, you have the Science Kid, you have the two beach bums, the hippies, you have the goat, you have General Bobblehead, you have the squirrel from the forest, you have the hermit crab, you have Inchy. I think the worm's name was Inchy, and the girl, the bookworms, so to speak. And then you have the family that's from the house that's at the beginning of World 3, the Squiggleville house. There's the baby, there's the I think they're the parents. I may be wrong. Maybe an older sister. I don't actually know what their connections are because you can't really see them. You can't really tell, but that's them. And also on the little Game Boy that the ice cream man's playing with. Oh, goodness gracious, I accidentally moved over to the loop. Hold on. I'm so sorry. Okay. There we go. It's me. Oh, and you Jelly's here too. Can't forget about him. So, over here, in the dead center, you have the mayor, the king's assistant, and you have Cutie with the pencil and caboodle. And there's actually a bit of meaning to this picture, to this shot. And the way I can pretty much summarize it, if I had to put it into words, it's a little difficult, is these people don't know what's going on, these people do. Just give me 1 second. So these people over here are either really innocent or really ignorant, and they don't fully grasp what's going on. Ice cream guys like either, or they know what's going on and they're ignoring it and they're coping. And the king is on that side as well. They're all getting ice cream over here, and then You Jelly's being You Jelly. And the only reason You Jelly is here is because I knew people would be mad if I didn't include him. So I shut up about 20 people by putting that. I'm sorry, that's mean, but I put him there. And also, it's kind of good that he's there because he fills in this little negative space, so to speak. And then over here you have, the wise old goat. You have General Bobblehead. You have a squirrel that can fly and see all. You have an old crab. You have a girl and a worm who are very smart. You have people whose home was destroyed, one of they were right outside Fancy's home. Their home got destroyed. Then you have the mayor, of course, who knows full well that this is a serious situation. And in the dead center, you have the king's assistant who knows what's going on. She does, but she is really looking at Cutie. And you can't, the thing about Cutie here is that you can't really tell if she actually knows what's going on here. And that's what the king's assistant is thinking about right now. She's wondering, does this little girl know what's going on? And if she doesn't, should I tell her? And there are some signs pointing to she doesn't know. She's sitting on the floor in the dead center. She's just petting her cat. But the sign that she might know what's going on is the fact that the pencil is here and she has her hand on it. It would be one thing if it was she was just leaning up against it, kind of, if it was just sitting behind her, but her hand on it is indicating here that she's acknowledging the fact that her brother is not here right now, and he's off doing something to solve this problem, and she doesn't know where he is, really. That's what that is supposed to be, basically, right here. But the king's assistant, again, doesn't know if Cutie knows or not, or what if she's fully aware of what's going on. Has she started to get the spark of understanding what's happened here? He certainly does. He certainly does not. And then there's all these other people on either side. The lighting here showing that it's this is where the focus is. And that's this shot, basically. So going back, And we'll get back to the lyrics in a second. Here's Inky. Inky's here. All right. This is on the desk. This is when the fight is happening. And I want to give a shout out to both Lemerx and Game Bean, who basically figured out two things that pointed out a little secret message that was in this song. And that is that even though this song is called, Call Me Fancy, and it's from the perspective of Fancy Pants, it isn't always from the perspective of Fancy Pants. I have this tiny little headcanon that Inky used to be was drawn as Fancy Pants originally until the ink corrupted them or something like that. And I was kind of sort of alluding to that, but even regardless of whether or not you consider that to be true, it is absolutely true that parts of this song are from the perspective of Inky. And once people asked, what do these words mean in this song, you kind of realize it. People started to realize it. So there are little tidbits that belong to Inky, but the big part right here is where I don't belong in your world. I'm on the run. You better run, Fancy. That is literally Inky saying to Fancy, you better run. And that just means go away. That means go away. Go into this world, your world, it's been destroyed. What's done is done. And, it's mine now. That's what what's done is done means. Here, it's here because this world got destroyed. This world got destroyed. We don't know about that one. And don't you run from the past is kind of the antithesis. I like the opposite of that. That's I guess Fancy saying that. There will be consequences for this. And though that, oh god, I forgot about this, the pun that I am really proud of. Lemerx pointed this out as well. Brad caught this as well. I'll be there in a flash with a capital F. God, I am a jerk. Ignore Fancy's foot not touching the ground there. I'll be there in a flash is a reference, obviously, to, a couple of things. First of all, I'll be there in a very short amount of time, in a blink of light, in a flash. It's also just a reference to Flash Program, which is what Fancy Pants Adventures was made, and you all know that. That's why you're here, and I thought I was the smartest person on Earth for coming up with that. I love writing lyrics. But yeah, the big tone shift here, I'm on the run, what's done is done, what's done is done. What's done is done, done, done. This is the destruction of that world. That's why it's on this shot. And, originally, you saw when in the storyboard, I originally had different plans for how this was going to work. I had different plans for how this was going to look. But then, as I really listened to the words, I was like, I wrote this, and I kind of want it to allude more to what the words are saying, not just be a visual of every single possible reference I could make in Call Me Fancy. I could reference 1,000 different things, but I actually want to reference the text that I've written here and what that text means. And that's what this final video is. And there's also... Oh, where is it? It's right here. I can't break free. Now, originally, that was a line that I wrote because when I put those notes there, I had no clue what else to write there. I didn't know. But I can't break free. It's, presented with ink. It's presented with orange and black. And I don't know if it's actually from Fancy or Inky in that moment. It's hard for me to tell. It's probably an Inky thing. Oh, Lumi's having a tough time trying to set up Jackbox. Good luck. I should have closed Steam before recording this, but haven't had many interruptions. Not that they're really interruptions, I'm just being a jerk talking about them. But anyway, I'm not really sure if this is Fancy or Inky. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just kind of ambiguous. But yeah, the splashes of ink during the transitions, the scribbles, where is it? The scribble. I mean, the loading screen used to be in Fancy Pants games. It was like the white scribble, but this one's black. And it's coming from the other side. You know, this is black, kind of in the background. It's all like alluding to the ink, and there they go. There they go. And that's the song. It's, you know, a combination of both Inky and Fancy, primarily Fancy, but also Inky's in there as well. And it's about the destruction and the consequences and fighting back and, you know, doing things that you can do, I guess. Like, and it's about being a mercenary. And now, this credits sequence. Oh, God, the credits sequence was such a saving grace for everything that I couldn't reference in the actual video. So I took mine and Solid's characters and I put them in here. And my two favorite enemies are, of course, the Dragonbird thing is just appropriate to have next to Techno Dragon, but I love the Toothpick Ninjas. I am a minority on this. I love the Toothpick Ninjas. I think they are so silly. I love their little jumping sound. There's Solid's character with a mouse, with the squiggle. There's not a single squiggle in that music video. And I was like, oh God! And when I realized that, so I put that in as like almost an afterthought. And speaking of afterthoughts, you could tell this was animated, this was not, because I forgot to credit myself for backing vocals there. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this shot right here, you know, I made sure to credit like Simon J. Hunter for the original bulk of the composition, Mike Rasnick for the vocal motif, and then Geyer Arnold as well, API, for the fact that I referenced the World 1 menu motif in there as well, because I kind of wanted people to look at that and be like, what? Geyer Arnold? Where? You know? Be like, where was that? And then like go back and like look for it and listen for something that was in there, because these two are obvious. This one isn't. It's a little bit more in the background. And there is one thing I do want to say about the song, so to speak. I feel like I'm not 100% certain about this, because whenever composers are making stuff or musicians are writing stuff, sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what you're inspired by, but I have a strange feeling that the very ending, the da 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 da, I feel like that drum beat with a little bit less aggression. It feels to me like I was inspired by Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, or Goo Goo Dolls. Is there I don't know. I love that song, and it kind of reminds me of that like little rhythm there. But anyway, that's besides the point. Originally, it was just going to be the pirate and the bird and the duck, but then I remembered the crabs existed, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what to do. Pinch the duck. I tried to make these very silly and stuff like that, and that's why, you know, you have the spider and the snail, two of the more iconic enemies, underneath Brad's name, and then the bat. I didn't know what to do, so I was like, I didn't know what to do for this part where I thanked basically the Discord servers, and so I was like, there are so many different colored frogs. And then I remembered this Reddit post that was like, can you help me identify these frogs? I stacked them, sorry. And I was like, oh, perfect. And, you know, I did that. I hid the transgender flag in here. This is just a copy paste of the different frogs going back and forth. And then the bat being like, okay. And you got to see a reference to the sign as well. And this part I am proud of a little bit. This feels silly. This is me being very smug and smart. Happy 20th anniversary Fancy Pants Adventures. Thank you for the adventures. Like the colors, man. Graphic design is my passion so far. Yeah. Oh boy. I have been talking about this for 2 hours. Good golly, is there anything that I forgot to talk about? Let me see. Old rhythms, support and backing vocals, Ibis paint, check. Yeah, okay, 2 things. Number 1. I really prioritized the music with this because I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to finish the video on time at least. But I did eventually. And I had something here that I was using to keep track of everything that I did. And I'm going to pop it up on screen through editing. But let me just get my screen recorder out. Okay. I made a checklist for every single shot or every single animated asset. And I decided that if I got one thing done a day, I could basically get it done in time. I finished the music. What was the final render? January 28th was when I finished the song. I finished the mix. I was happy with the mix, and I forced myself to stop and say, "Don't tweak it anymore." This checklist is for everything. I kept track of how many days I had off. I kept track of what needed to be done on what day. It's this big, long checklist of all the things I needed to keep track of, make sure that I got it in, and guidelines where I was just telling myself, you got this. And then like every day, the closer I got, I would add another guideline just saying like, you got this, you really got this. And I have a typo here, you already know that. But let's keep that there. That just goes to show how tired I was. But yeah, I was keeping track of like what needs to be made, where it needs to be made, what day it needs to be done by, how many frames per second it is, all this other stuff. And I guess I'll take a moment to talk about the actual release of this thing. That I got like 3 hours of sleep that night. Like the day of, I mean. And it was I got woken up at like 3 a.m. by something. I fell asleep at midnight, got woken up at 3 a.m. by something. I had scheduled the post to upload at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so, you know, I was awake and I realized I was like, I'm not going to be able to fall back to sleep. So at breakfast, I made sure that all of the links were in the descriptions as they were uploading to Newgrounds and YouTube. And then and Bandcamp as well. No, not Bandcamp. What was the other thing? Oh, I think I needed to upload it to Blue Sky. I needed to share it to Discord. There were 2 separate posts on Newgrounds. There was the audio post and the video. And then during the day, I basically had a party all day with the Born Games Discord server. Lou, my friend Lou, very kindly put together a magma board for the server to play with, and we all spent the day on there basically. Like so many people came together and put together this giant magma board, and then we made a second board for Brad's family to play around with, and they got to draw some stuff on there. Brad came by and drew something on there as well. We left a box on the first board for Brad to draw, and it was a great time. It was a really nice day, you know. We got to watch a video that Graham and Brad put out talking about the future of the series. Fancy Pants Adventures Online was announced. We were all having a gay old time. We were all ecstatic. And then the night came, and I noticed that, you know, I was thinking to myself, I've been on a Discord call all day. But then I noticed that Brad was in the, like, I was getting ready for bed. I was on my phone, and I noticed that Brad was in the Patreon, like, voice chat. And I decided, hey, what's going on here? I'm curious. And so I jumped in, and we started talking. Other folks started joining in. I was telling people who were my friends and our Patreons, like, to get in here. We're talking about stuff. And then my friend Lou joined, and I finally, called attention to something we've been talking about for a bit. We're making sure that the Discord server gets updated. The rules got updated, all this other stuff. It's been hard to get a hold of, everything. And then, now that things have settled down, we were able to give the server basically a facelift and add, new rules, new stuff, and I was promoted to moderator somehow. That was one of the big changes. Lou got promoted to an administrator, or an inky rather, which is like a mix between a moderator and an admin, sort of, so to speak. The true admins, of course, are Brad and Fairly, but so that was interesting. And then someone, I think it was Lou, brought up, like, hey Brad, did you see the animated music video about Fancy Pants that Techno made? And that's when we got together and we all watched it, and that was I left that call afterwards, and I said to my friend Fig, I said, that was one of the best days of my life. That was like, whenever I have one of those days, I get a feeling. And it's a feeling that I have felt twice before. I felt it when I was 11 years old. And I felt it when I was showing my capstone project for university, where, I've accomplished something great, and then everyone around me is just applauding me and telling me I did a good job. And so that was one of this March 14th, 2026 was another one of those days where I just felt like I was on cloud nine. It was great. I was crying a little bit. Like, we were all crying. And, so I, again, after all of this, I thank you all for your support. I thank you all for keeping in touch with me. I thank you all for working with me on future stuff. I thank you all for, considering me and just allowing me to be here and welcoming me and making me feel welcomed and doing all of these things. I am very grateful. I am very proud. And if there's anything I want to tell people about this, is if you have a crazy idea, there is no better time to do it than now. There is, because you never know when your favorite game is going to have a 20th anniversary. You best get started now, man. And like I said, I do want to make more nerdcore music. One of my followers, I think it was Orange Dude on Blue Sky, told me, I think it was on YouTube that he told me this, but it's the same guy, same difference. He told me that he was very glad that there was some nerdcore music out there that wasn't trend chasing. And I was like, oh, good. I love making crazy stuff for niche interests, and I want to make more nerdcore music for niche stuff that I like. I want to make a Pico School one. I guess the most trendy thing I could do for would be a Friday Night Funkin' one, but I have like a very specific vision for it. I think the Pico School one's gonna be next. Yeah. But, like, yeah, just in general, I'm really happy to be doing this. I want to keep doing stuff like this. I want to make more Fancy Pants stuff. So thank you all again for sitting with me for 2 hours and listening to me talk about my own music and seeing how I did all this. Thank you again. Be sure to like and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. And go check out my Bandcamp. Go check out my Newgrounds account. Go play Fancy Pants Adventures again. If you haven't already played it, if you haven't already played it before, go play it for your first time now. You never know. There might be, go try new things. You never know. Something might be the thing that makes you do the thing that I told you should do. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Goodbye.